How's it, guys? This is Davey FC, and welcome back to the Deadline with Davey live stream. This live stream is going to revolve around the quarterfinals. Finally, after a couple days break from kind of European football, it's back, and with some absolutely stacked quarterfinals for us today. I'm personally looking forward to the Italy versus Belgium game, but maybe you guys are hyped about the Spain versus Switzerland game, because I think that's probably the game we're going to kind of focus on with our options that we bring in this week. And as you can see on screen here, absolutely shocking team at the moment. I have about 6 players or 5 players at the moment. So we definitely will be taking a hit. It's just going to depend if it's going to be a -8 or -12 at this point. So I don't usually advise going for hits in fantasy games, but we left with no choice. We don't have a full starting 11, and we need some options to fill up our team. So hopefully you guys don't have to take as many hits as I do. Hopefully maybe you have some more England options. That's a great shout to go for. Some more Spanish options. That's also going to be what we kind of include. But we do have that Spanish lineup, so I will be running through it, as well as the Swiss lineup for those of you guys who maybe want to pick up a guy like a Shaqiri, an Embolo, a player like that. That could be a good little differential to go for, but I personally think that I'll be favoring the Spanish side of things tonight. And then, in terms of the fixture tonight, Belgium, Italy, I'm hoping that Italy win with 4 of their options, but it's going to be an interesting game, and I think it's going to be quite a close one. In terms of questions today, you guys can always post them in chat, and I will get them to them as soon as possible. But right now, I'll probably just be running through my own changes and potential moves that we can do. So as I mentioned, I think I counted 6 options in my starting 11 currently. So I need 5 players to make a full starting 11. And then we have a player like a Berardi, who I don't even think he's going to start today. So that's just something I'm putting out there. So he could end up not getting us any points. And that's why I was kind of telling you guys between a -8 and a -12, I might be leaning towards going for a -12, just to kind of give us some reassurance about that. So let me just bring up chat. Just sorry, I wasn't even looking at chat. I do apologize for that one. Lightre is saying have some fun with some hits before the FPL season. So that's exactly what I'm kind of thinking. I've really enjoyed playing Euro Fantasy. It's been such a nice little bit of change of pace from the usual FPL game. So I'm having fun with it. So hopefully it also equals some points, because we're not doing terribly in the rankings. About 6k now in the rankings, but we were about 2k. So obviously that's a little bit disappointing. Getting out of our team. So if you guys don't have the same team as me, something that I'd recommend, something that's a little bit obvious, is just simply take out the players that are the most expensive options. So you can see in my front line, I've already sorted it. I've got Memphis Depay and I've got Kylian Mbappe. I'll be getting them out of my team and bringing in some other options. Gini Van Alden will also be departing. Sarabia starting, really nice shout to go for. If you guys want to know the Spanish lineup, basically the players that you guys will know, we've got Morata up front, Sarabia on the left, I think, and then Ferran Torres on the right. And then we have in defense Pau Torres, if those of you guys do own those 4.5 options. So, Pau Torres could be a nice little 4.5 option if you guys do own him, and just simply play him because he's in the starting 11. Other defenders, we're going to take out Pavard and then also Dumfries, because they're the most expensive options. And we're going to leave Gozens on the bench along with Benzema and Forsberg right now. In terms of the options I was thinking of, let's start with the forward department, because that's quite easy. It's going to be the main man. Let's first go with the main man, Harry Kane. Managed to get off the mark. Hopefully he can replicate that against Ukraine, which I'm pretty sure he will. And then also Morata. I know that I've probably have been slating him a bit, but it's really weird that I've gone from saying that he's a terrible striker to actually maybe captaining him for the quarterfinals. It's amazing how things kind of change. So Morata will come in the front line. Then in the midfield department, I think there's only one man that I can go for if I want to go for an assured start, and it's going to be Raheem Sterling with about 3 goals. Most of England's goals, to be honest. So, he's had great form. I'm expecting him to continue that against Ukraine. JCC are saying, do you like Morata? I have nothing against him personally, but I just think from a finishing point of view, he might not be the best finisher in the game, if you know what I'm saying. But in terms of Morata, I have no problems with him, and definitely because of that nice fixture against Switzerland, I am kind of hoping that he does get on the end of a couple of goals. Davey, you have to keep hope that Italy beat Belgium. Dwayne, that's exactly what I'm hoping for, because if Italy lose, I'm going to be digging that hole a little bit deeper. I actually took a bet with a couple of mates, and Belgium is my squad to win the whole Euros. So at least I'm playing the odds there. If Belgium win, I'm still happy. If Belgium lose, from a fantasy point of view, that's perfectly fine. Do you think Grealish will start, says Sky Champion? I personally don't think he will. I think that they'll go for Mason Mount instead at that kind of cam slot, whatever you want to call it, that England are currently playing in that midfield three. Dwayne saying Belgium is our favorite team as well. Are you from Belgium? That'll be quite interesting. Maybe you can talk Flemish, then I can talk Afrikaans and Flemish to you. Simon or Donnarumma? Kieran, I think you have to go with Simon in this case. And that's just because that Belgium game, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them score. Zuba for Sterling differential. So I don't know if you're saying rather take Zuba than Sterling, but I think you have to go with Sterling if you're comparing those two options. If you have the wild card, what would the lineup be? So unfortunately, I'm basically doing a wild card. I'm just paying more points for it. So if you do have your wild card, you get it for free, whereas I'm kind of paying -8 or -12 for the current squad I want. Dinesh saying news on KDB or Hazard. If you're asking me for news or if you're telling me news, you can always put it in chat. But in terms of asking me, right now I think KDB has a better chance of starting than Hazard. But as far as I know, both of them weren't training as of yet. So that might be a little bit of a questionable one. But let me just finish the squad here before I answer more questions. Sorry guys, let me just focus and hone in on this. In terms of the defense, I think that you have to go with some England defenders because they've been quite solid at the back. And that's going to be John Stones and Luke Shaw. And that takes me to a -8 with 0 in the bank. So right now, I've got no money in my bank, no money to play with, but I do have a full starting 11. It is for a -8 hit, which is not the best in the world, but it is something that I'm comfortable taking because I mentioned this throughout the team selections and the wildcard drafts. I've mentioned that getting hits for a full starting 11 is perfectly fine for my opinion, especially if you think that team will progress to the semi-finals, because then you're kind of getting 2 games for your 1 hit, and that's why I think it's perfectly fine. Morata or Kane. So James, that's a tough one. If you have to go with either of them, I think you have to favor Kane because not only this week they face Ukraine, but then next week they could potentially play Denmark or the Czech Republic. I think it's going to be Denmark if I had to kind of predict. I know that Denmark aren't too shabby at the back, but I do think that England will be favorites in that game, so you kind of have to back them to win that fixture. So this is the kind of the boring 4 that I have chosen. It includes getting a quadruple up on England, which I think is perfectly fine because I think against Ukraine, they will win that fixture. Touch wood that they actually do. -8 for a keeper. I don't think the kind of points or ceiling on a goalkeeper is worth taking a hit for. Unless you think that it's going to be like a Pickford and he's going to keep a clean sheet against Ukraine and then a clean sheet against Denmark, then in my opinion, that's fine. But I would probably just hold off because you might spend one of those transfers next week for a goalkeeper anyway. So I don't think it's worth the risk this week. Morata scores 1 goal and everyone thinks he's got here. That's exactly the reason, but I will show you some stats. Actually, let me kind of go into, so let me just bring up Twitter quickly because if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, a little bit of a plug for the Twitter page there, but I did post the stats for the Matchday 1 captain. Let me just bring it up here. Okay, so this is the kind of thread that I did of qualification, clean sheets, and then Matchday 1. And if we look at the stats, this is why I think everyone is looking at Morata and kind of thinks that he's a good option. So 15 shots on target. 15 shots, 7 of those on target, and that's quite a high percentage. I think he just might be a little bit unlucky not to have scored. But in terms of XG, not going to get into the debate if XG is actually a kind of good stat or not, but he has the highest XG in the Euro competition, and that's why I think people are suddenly kind of looking at him and thinking that this could be a nice option, and that's me personally as well. I think that he could be a nice option to go for. If you're going to be kind of comparing the Spanish lads for captaincy, it gets a little bit trickier because Ferran Torres and Sarabia missed the first game of Euros, if I do recall. So you can see there about 120 minutes, around about that, less than Morata, but that 30 minutes, take that off for the extra time against Croatia because they were subbed. and then just take off that one fixture. So they've had one less game than Morata, but Sarabia's stats look actually quite good there, to be honest. So if you want to go kind of for a midfielder, I would go with Sarabia over Ferran Torres, but I don't know, I just have a weird feeling about Torres this week, and I think that he could be quite a nice little differential if you want to go for him. So these are the options for this week. Lukaku's also up there, Immobile's up there, Insigne's up there, but I would probably suggest maybe going for a Spanish option, to be honest. I saw someone was asking me about Berardi and what's kind of wrong with him. I just don't think he's going to start, and that's why I'm thinking about taking another hit so that I can field another play instead of him, because worst scenario is that he doesn't even come off the bench. If it does go to extra time, then I think that he will come off, like a Chiesa did against, I forget who Italy played in their round of 16, but Chiesa came off the bench and they rotated the attack quite a lot. But I think in this game, unless it goes to extra time, I don't even know if Berardi will come off. Let me just actually bring up Euro 2020's predicted lineups, because I don't actually think many people know about this. But so here, just go on to Google, search UEFA space Euro 2020 possible lineups, and then this is going to come up. This is made by UEFA themselves, and what they do is they give their predictions on who's going to play in the specific teams. So you can see for the Belgium lineup, they've actually gone for Hazard to miss out. Thorgan Hazard starts, but Eden Hazard misses out, and they think De Bruyne is actually going to play. So don't take this as gospel, but I like to kind of use this as a metric for maybe predicted lineups. And they usually are actually quite good. So let's just go to Italia, because I think most of them are quite set and forget. So you can see Italy, quarterfinals versus Belgium. They're predicting that Chiesa starts instead of Immobile, not Immobile instead of Berardi, and Immobile and Insigne are still fine. They mentioned somewhere here that, with the latter having a great chance to start ahead. And I tend to agree with that. I think that Berardi was good at the start, but then he's kind of dropped off in the last couple game weeks. So that's why I actually don't think he's going to play. And he might come off the bench for 1 point, or best scenario, maybe a goal or an assist. But push comes to shove, I think I might be taking a hit instead of just keeping him. Obviously, I'll play him tonight. I mean, with the subs, you can kind of just play him. But then the kind of debate comes in. I have 0 in the bank, so I can either choose to go with Mæhle, or I can downgrade one of my English options, go for Mæhle, and then bring in Ferran Torres for Forsberg. So that's something that I'm kind of going for. So this is nice. Like, I'm fine with going with these options, but then if I want to bring in another hit, then that opens a new can of worms, because now should I get in Mæhle or should I get in Ferran Torres? That's kind of what happens. Zelan saying, will Maguire play? I think that back line is going to be Luke Shaw, Maguire, Stones, and then Walker. I think that's probably going to be the back four. So I don't think Maguire misses out. I know that he does have the yellow card, so that could be something that you guys consider, is that if he picks up a yellow card in the quarterfinals, he misses out in the semifinals. But you can kind of restrict yourself as a football player to not get a yellow, I kind of think. I think that you can be a little bit more cautious, not dive into tackles and that sort of thing. Sarabia or Morata as captain, and why? So Ebro, I think that Morata in terms of the stats is the best option, but Sarabia has the high ceiling. And that's just because if you think Spain will keep a clean sheet, that's 1 extra point for a clean sheet. And then if he scores a goal, that's 1 extra point as a midfielder versus an attacker for a goal. So that's something that you're going to have to kind of think about. I usually like to take a punt on the first match day of the season, but because there's only 2 match days, I might be a little more conservative this time. Who are you captaining? I'm leaning slightly towards going with Morata, but I think if I brought in Ferran Torres, he would tempt me quite a lot. Severovic over Morata, leaving on a Swiss upset. So I understand what you're saying with that about taking a little bit of an upset into account, but if I'm going to be taking a hit for a player, I'm going to kind of play the odds and go for the favorite, because at least then I'm lowering the risk of them not returning if, say, Spain go through to the semis. At least have a play in the semifinals then. But if you support Switzerland, if you are Swiss or something like that, or if you just think that Switzerland could win, I mean, there's kind of no set way to play fantasy games. Darren saying exactly my team, but I got Mæhle too. So that's what's super annoying, is that I wish that I went for him, obviously with hindsight. But you can't be angry if the cheaper option returns, if you know what I'm saying. You can be angry if the more expensive option returns and you would have gone for him, but if you chose to go more expensive and the cheaper guy scores more, you just have to sit back and say, listen, that was maybe a bad decision on my part. But if Mæhle was in my squad, it would make things a lot easier. I just think that England have a super good chance of keeping a clean sheet against Ukraine. And that's why, I don't know who I should go for here. I really want Forsberg, but then also I think that against the Czech Republic, Mæhle is an absolute machine. I don't know, he's just so attacking. If you look at the stats, actually, let me go to match day 2. I'll show you his stats. For a full back, for a defender, 9 shots and 6 on target. I mean, that's absolutely insane. And that's what's kind of leading me towards maybe just going for him. I mean, Schick can always score, but I think that Denmark have been quite solid at the back. JCC are saying Ferran Torres, 2 Spain strikers. So are you referring to maybe Ferran Torres in the lineup playing as a striker or second striker? Because in the normal games, he's a midfielder. Kane or Sterling? I would go with Sterling, Mufasa. I just favor Sterling a lot more than Kane currently. Kane's stats aren't looking great, and to be honest, if you watched England play, he's almost reverting to that position he plays for Spurs, where he's almost playing like a CM. And at the striker position, you don't want that. Verloc saying I'm rank 500 overall and second in the private league. Is it worth -8? It depends on your situation. If you're kind of getting a starting 11, then it's fine. But if you're trying to bring in bench options, then no. Morata in for either Mobile, Kane, or Lukaku. Walter, I wouldn't do that move unless you have free transfers to play with. Then what I would maybe do is predict who you think is going to win between Italy and Belgium. I don't think you can take out Kane before Ukraine. James Wilson's like, I'm 9 players out. How many hits would you take? Take as many hits as you can for a full starting 11. And with me, I'm taking a hit maybe for option instead of Berardi. That's like what I'm kind of thinking about. Which Denmark striker to go for? Only have 6 mil. So let's go and look for you for strikers for 6 mil. But I think you're kind of putting yourself in a box there because I don't know how many there are for Denmark. So you don't. I wouldn't kind of go for any of them if you don't have 6 mil to play with. And if you're only looking for 6 mil, there's not great options, to be honest. You can maybe go with Cornelius, but I don't know how much he probably just came on here because he actually looked really good when he came on, to be honest. So, I mean, you could go for Cornelius, but I think that there's better options elsewhere. Maybe try and downgrade another option to upgrade somewhere else. Let me just see. Okay, so if I take out John Stones and I bring in Mæhle, I then have 1 more to expand with. So it just basically comes down to who I think will score more points. Is it going to be John Stones or is it going to be Ferran Torres? Because I can upgrade either of those. You're taking 2 hits. Right now, I'm probably taking 3 hits. Best striker for 10 mil, I would go with Morata, to be honest, Mufasa. Would you take a -4 for an England defender, having 11 including KDB and Berardi? So Danny, probably what I would look at is, because I don't think that Berardi is going to start, saying that if there does come some news on Twitter, do post it in the chat because we sometimes do get some early team news. But if Berardi doesn't start and it doesn't go to extra time, I think he probably gets about 1 point. And that's why I think it might be worth taking a punt on a Ferran Torres or going for a John Stones or something like that just to maybe potentially replace Berardi if he only gets 1 point or 0 points. That's what I'm kind of thinking about right now. I think what I might do is I might take out Forsberg and I might bring in Ferran Torres. I don't know. It's just, does Ferran Torres have a higher chance of points than John Stones does? Maybe he does. Look, I could take another hit, but I'm not too keen on taking too many hits. I think -12 is going to be my limit. It's not worth, says Razmit. So I think it's basically down to who do you think scores more points? John Stones or Ferran Torres in this fixture? That's what it kind of comes down to for me. Shaqiri for Mount. I think that just stay with what you have there because I think Mount plays this week. Shaqiri definitely will play because he's obviously in the lineup, but I think that right now I would probably keep my England assets for what they are. I'm 7 points ahead of my buddies in my private league and I'm down 1 in my starting 11. Should I take that last hit? Already took 1 hit. Ali, I would take the hit, especially if it's going to be for an England asset. Shaggy, if I have Limitless, can I go with if they lose and he scores, it's a win for me. That's probably true. If you think that he can do well, Shaggy, then 100%. But I think there might be other options in that front line. If you're not keen on Schick, then go with Severovic. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Which of the front three to captain, says James. So we can go on to what I was talking about with the stats. So if you are stats point of view type of person, Morata, Ferran Torres, or Sarabia as the front three. And then these are the stats that they have. I think if you want to go for stats point of view, Morata's the best. But in terms of the high ceiling, Ferran Torres and Sarabia definitely are looking quite strong. So that's why I think that if you want to kind of go for a little bit of a punt, I would go with one of the midfielders rather. Because Morata, although he's had some good shots, his finishing isn't always the best. 3 attackers from Spain against a team which defeated France, not good. So Razmit, it's not that like that because I think they're a bad side. It's that they've lost Granit Xhaka, who was man of the match in my opinion, and I think he was actually man of the match overall. But they also did concede 3 goals. So I think that even if they do go out, Spain will score a couple, and I think this will be quite a high-scoring game anyway. Sold De Bruyne for Sterling. I think I would just keep De Bruyne because he could start tonight, unless we get some concrete news that he doesn't end up playing. Thoughts on Trippier? Do you think he starts? I wouldn't take a punt on Trippier. If you have him, just keep him. But I wouldn't bring him in because it's basically between Trippier and Walker, I think, on that right-hand side. You need to put Torres in off your bench now. So Superfly, I haven't confirmed these transfers anyway. So if I do make them, I will confirm it. Do you think Luke Shaw will keep his spot ahead of Chilwell? I think Clifford, he has to because of the good performance that he put in the round of 16. I don't think it makes sense for me, from Southgate's point of view, to change anything about that team that beat Germany. Costas, hey David, does it worry you that Sarabia game came off early? I think it was 70 minutes. So Costas, I think, depending on who it is, I think Ferran Torres and Sarabia will both come off at 60 minutes, 70 minutes anyway. But I'd rather take a punt on going for one of them in any case. But I know what you're saying about the captaincy, and that's why I might just go with Morata in any case. Captain Sarabia or Morata, it depends. If you want to go high ceiling and more of a punt, then go with Sarabia. But if you want to go for the stats, I think Morata's got a better chance of scoring probably. Thoughts on a Serbi Italian defender? If you have him, keep him. But if you don't have him, don't bring him in because Chiellini's apparently back tonight. Who would you recommend to captain? My team is very similar to you. So Astro, I'm probably going to go with Morata, but I think you can't go wrong with any of the 3 Spanish assets. Sorry for that. Davey, would you go for Dolberg or Schick, assuming Denmark are favorites? So apparently Steve Dolberg might not play. If we go to the kind of predicted lineup from UEFA, they currently do have Dolberg actually, but let me just read you quickly because so this was the same report that I read last time, but it's going to be between Paulson and Dolberg. I think that you have to go with Schick because he's nailed, but I think that Dolberg might be a nice little punt. Horrible teams, Jason. That's why I'm trying to change it, Jason. I'm taking so many hits to make it a better team. I was thinking De Bruyne might be too risky. So if you're thinking about De Bruyne captain, then maybe not. But if you have him, just keep him because there could be a chance that he starts. Do you think Grealish will play? I think Grealish will probably come off the bench. I think they'll go with Mason Mount probably in that cam slot. In terms of the wings, I don't know who they'll go for. Might be Foden, might be Saka, but definitely Sterling on the left. Why not go with -8 and one less defender? I think it's because the defenders I've looked at, I think they score points this week. And I think that with the England assets, they score points next week as well. And that's what I'm kind of saying is that I would, if it's going to be like a centre back, I wouldn't take a hit for them. But because it's going to be some fullbacks with the potential of attacking returns, I think there's a good chance. Take a Dobbik instead of Dolberg. As far as I know, I think that's the Ukrainian striker that came off the bench. I don't think he plays. Insigne or Ferran Torres, in terms of captaincy or play, I would go with Ferran Torres. How many hits are you taking, David? I think I'm going to go with a -12 right now. So I think I'm pretty set on going for Mailer instead of Stones and then upgrading Ferran Torres. So instead of Stones, I'm going for Torres basically. SH, is Torres the confirmed transfer? I think it's probably going to be. I'm more excited to watch kind of an attacking point of view player than going for a defensive option. Would you go with Lukaku and Sterling or Kane and Thorgan Hazard? That's a tough one. Can't you afford Kane and Sterling both? Aren't they kind of the same price? Okay, you need 0.2. Can't you find like 0.2 somewhere else? Because I think that I would rather go with Sterling and Kane, to be honest. Is minus 16 okay to reach 12 players? I think that's fine, but as long as you have Berardi in your team or like an Eden Hazard that might not play. If you're taking if you're trying to get 12 players, but you already have 11 starting, then I wouldn't look at it too much. Okay, let me just make these transfers because a lot of people are coming in and they're quite confused. Okay, so I'm going to take a minus 12 hit and I'm going to bring in my Spanish options. So we are taking 3 additional transfers, so a minus 12, and we're going to be confirming them. So let's confirm the transfers and let me just make some changes here. So I think I'm going to go with Morata captain, and then let me just make subs. So in terms of the date, I just need to swap, let me just swap Kane out and then confirm that. So I only have one option on the bench that can come on, but at least I have the potential for some points. So we have taken a minus 12 hit. It's an absolutely massive hit, but unfortunately I had to take it after that disaster class of Netherlands and France in the round of 16. Sarabia or Sterling, I would probably lean towards going with Sterling there. Ali's saying, I've got my limitless left. Should I save that for either the semi or final? Because I use it now, then I'll be... okay, yeah. So, Ali, this is what I was talking about with the wildcard draft. If you don't have the wildcard, then I would definitely save my limitless for the semi-final or the final. Because I think, as you said, with your own team now, I don't know exactly how it looks, but I would assume that in the semi-finals, you're going to have a lot of players that don't start, and you only have 5 free transfers. Wade Chiellini is playing, so Sky Champion, he might not play, but apparently he has recovered from the injury, and I think if he's fit, he plays. Lukaku, Sarabia, or Morata for captaincy. I would go with Sarabia or Morata. Morata for the stats or Sarabia for the highest ceiling. Shaqiri for Mount. So, Vern, I answered this question like at the start of the stream. So I said that I wouldn't do that. I would keep Mount. Tay, Lunatic, I think strategy behind how many minus points you get is very different of each other. For example, if you're chasing on a league, I think it's not a good idea. If you're just playing for fun, it's a little different. So yeah, exactly. If you're chasing a league, I'd be a little bit more conservative. But obviously, if you kind of just playing for fun and you just want to play the game, then I mean, you can just take as many hits as you want. You can change your whole starting 15 if you want. Ferran Torres or Mela? Ferran Torres or Shaw, asked Justin. So are you? I guess you guys are kind of in the situation that I was in. You're probably asking about should you be bringing in Shaw or Torres for that kind of extra slot. I think that I favor the attacking player here, but I just don't know. I mean, Mela and Shaw are super. That's why I kind of went for both in my starting lineup. But I think that I would probably lean towards Shaw, and then instead of in terms of Ferran Torres and Mela, I would go with Ferran Torres. De Bruyne is starting today, so there has been some rumors that he will, but it hasn't been super confirmed. Alex saying, love your content, dude. Thanks a lot, Alex. Are rumors about Kane being ruled out false? As far as I know, there's been no kind of Kane being ruled out rumors as of yet. But I mean, if he is ruled out, that's going to be quite devastating for my own team because I've taken a hit to bring him in. I'm winning my mini league, and the second guy also has to take hits. I'm 5 points ahead of him. Is -8 a good hit? If he has to make hits, then you're perfectly fine. Then just take as many as you need to get a starting 11. That's my kind of rule of thumb here is if you need to get a starting 11 with hits, that's fine. As soon as you start taking hits for sub positions, besides like Berardi or Eden Hazard, then that should be okay. Steve, are you confident Shaw starts? So for me, I think that Southgate's a pretty conservative manager. So he doesn't like to make too many changes if things are going well. And they beat Germany. So they're pretty much going to go with the same lineup. But they might shift to a back 4. And then one of Trippier or Walker will fall out, I think. I thought Ferran Torres was literally in the starting lineup. Giroud, so he is in the starting lineup, yeah. I don't really know what you're questioning about that. Because, yeah, you can check the lineup and he is. Morata or Ferran Torres captain? Shaggy, Morata for the stats. Ferran Torres if you want to kind of take a little bit more of a differential punt. Sterling or Kane? Sterling. Do Ferran Torres captain, says MA. So luckily we have kind of a replacement tomorrow if Morata doesn't end up returning. But I think that I'm pretty much going to go with the stats on this case. James Morata, Sarabia captain. It's the same thing that I've been telling you guys is Morata has the better stats, but Sarabia is the highest ceiling kind of player. So it depends on what you're kind of doing, James. If you're in a mini league, if you're winning it, then you can go with Morata. But if you're chasing it, maybe go with Sarabia. I just got my vaccine randomly and haven't made a team yet. So no thought went into my team. But look at the positives. You got the vaccine. So, I mean, it's still going to be a good Friday for you. Actually, it might not be because I think you might get symptoms tonight. So good luck with that one. Shaggy, are you going to make a league in the Premier League Fantasy? I will make a league. I know some people were asking me for a league in Euro Fantasy, but I just didn't really make one because I didn't think too many people would be playing. But now that I see that a lot of people have been playing, maybe it should be quite important. What is your captain tomorrow? I'll probably go Sterling captain. Gone with Morata as I don't have Torres, but do have Sarabia. If Torres assists, he's more likely to assist Morata than Sarabia. So, Matthew, I guess that is true because he is playing on that right side, the right side of the field. So, maybe unless it's a complete cross to the left-hand side, then that could be quite interesting. I'm chasing a mini league, but I think I'll go with Morata today. I mean, the nice thing about the kind of this fantasy is that you can change your captain. And when you have England versus Ukraine tomorrow, which I think will be a high-scoring one, it's perfectly fine to just kind of pick a captain that you think could perform, and then you get kind of a safety captain tomorrow. Sarabia, Ferran, or Morata as captain first. So it's just go to my Twitter and then look at the stats, and then you can see that I would go with Sarabia over Torres, but Morata is the best stat. So that's why I say Morata, if you're looking at the stats point of view, is the best. But if you're talking about a high ceiling and a differential, then Sarabia is my favorite midfielder from Spain. What should Morata do not to change captain tomorrow? I think the metric right now, I think it's probably been reduced because of the quarterfinals. It probably will be about 8 points, 8, 9, and I won't change. But anything less than that, I probably will just throw it at Sterling because I think he'll do well. Do we even get the lineup of England tomorrow? Okay, so unfortunately we don't get the England lineup first, but if we did, then I mean that would be a lock-in. Vernon Shaqiri for Mount. I've answered you twice now, so keep Mount. Should I switch Luke Shaw for Dumfries, who's out, for 2 hits instead of 1? I would do the Luke Shaw move if you don't have a starting 11. So I'll say it again. So if you don't have a starting 11, hits are fine. But if you're taking hits to bring in subs, then that's not fine. I wouldn't do those hits. I don't think it's worth it. Because remember, we do get transfers next week as well that you can make some rotations with. If he has 6 points, Morata, will you switch? Yeah, I probably will, Shaggy. What do you think of Immobile for captain? So Percy, I don't like it because I think that Italy versus Belgium game is going to be super close. No worries, Vernon. How many hits did you take? I took a -12, so I took 3 hits. Cole saying, if you had to choose between Morata or Torres, which one would you go for? I would go with Morata because I think that Morata Sarabia is a lot closer for me than Morata Torres. I think that is a little bit of a distinction there. So much Italia backing. What if they lose? So I'll do exactly what I did this game week. I'll just take a lot of hits. That seems to be what I'm doing. Ali saying, give him a like. He's helping out all of us. So Ali, I hope that I'm helping you all out. But as far as I know, I might be leading you into the darkness with all these hits that I'm taking. But I do appreciate you liking the stream. How's it, FPL Penguin? Hope you're good. Alba captain, I don't trust the Spanish defense, so I don't think I'd go a Jordi Alba captain. Lewis saying, hi Davey, is football coming home? So the nice thing about this question is that it 100% is because the final is at Wembley. But I think England have to screw up a lot to not make the final. And I mean, in a final or once-off game, anything can happen. But I am rooting for England because obviously that's going to be my team now. So I think they should do well. 7 minutes. Save your team. That is true. Please, guys, save your teams because I don't know. I think it was the group stages or this game week 2 or 3 where the website actually froze. So I don't want that to happen to any of you. Down 9 in my mini league. Still have Morata. So Amir, what I would do is look at your opponent, the guy who's leading. If he has Morata, if he has Torres, then it's kind of a simple debate. Just go for the more differential one, which is going to be Torres. But if he doesn't own Morata and you don't think he's going to get him, that kind of opens the debate a little bit. So mini leagues are super tough. Mini leagues, you have to look at the opponents and the people around you. Steve saying, thanks for the info. Without doubt, the best channel when it comes to responding to that. Thank you, Steve. That's basically all I do on these deadline streams. I just read the chat, but I do appreciate the kind words. Kieran Brooks saying game week 3. Yeah, so the game week 3 was crazy. I didn't see too many people complaining about it though, so I think most people got their teams in. Schick or Mbolo, I think that I would rather go with Schick in that case. In terms of the stats, he's just one of those insane options. I mean, I did list them on the matchday 2 here, where 12 shots, 7 on target, got a good XG. I mean, 4 goals, he's overperforming his XG, but that's not always a bad thing. So I would rather go with Schick, but I think there might be a little bit of difference between the prices there. Aline saying, you're 100% sure to make Morata captain over Sarabia. I think either will do well, to be honest. So that's the thing. I think that because I've gone for 3 Spanish assets, what I kind of hope for is that if one of them scores, the other one assists. So I kind of get those points anyway. But I'm kind of just throwing it on a guy that I think has good stats here and has a potential to score. And then tomorrow I can just shift him to Sterling or Kane if I want to. Or maybe even Luke Shaw. I mean, I think that he'll have a good game. And in terms of clean sheets, England have the best odds to kind of keep a clean sheet this game week. Best goalkeeper option, I think Pickford has to be the best option this week, Michael. Torres or Damsgaard? Torres. Jason saying, team's looking good. How many hits did you take? So the team is looking good because I took 3 hits. I took a minus 12. So I know the team is not looking... The team is looking fine now, but the damage is going to be seen in the rank after this game week. Should I take a hit for Morata? Have a full starting 11 but no sub. If your full starting 11 is playing, so that means that there's no Eden Hazard, I think that Berardi doesn't start. So if you have him, then I would potentially look at taking a hit because I just think that there's good odds on kind of getting a return for the player that you bring in for Berardi. Should I captain Kane or Sterling tomorrow? So hopefully we'll address that question tomorrow, but I currently am leaning towards Sterling. Schick has better stats, so why Kane? The thing about Kane is that I think they beat Ukraine, and then I think they beat whoever they face in the semis. Whereas with Schick, Denmark are favourites right now. I know that there's a lot of people that don't like the odds, but for a metric, I think that I would kind of go for that. Sub Kane with Sterling, so your team appears more attacking. So Lunatic, I don't think there's anyone that's going to be monitoring my squad at the moment. So if I maybe was in a mini league that I was chasing, maybe I want to intimidate the opposition, maybe I'll do that. But because I don't think anyone cares about how my team looks, I think I'm just going to leave it. And also kind of like the symmetry we're getting here, you know, with the assets. Can you even I don't know. Actually, I don't want to fool around. Let me just refresh here quickly, so we know the team is set. Schick or Dahlberg, I would lean towards Schick in that case. 3 minutes till the deadline, that is true. Sterling or Torres, Nick, I would go with Sterling. I think England options are my favorite options to go for, just because I think they've got a good chance of progressing. Aaron says, will KDB start? I know that if KDB's fit, he'll play. I don't think I'll rest him, but I just don't know if he is. Immobile or Lukaku, I personally think that if KDB is benched or doesn't start, if Eden Hazard doesn't start, I think that Italy will win, so I would favour Immobile there. But I think that if kind of Belgium are going to score, it's going to be Lukaku. Whereas with Italy, it could be Chiesa, it could be Insigne, it could be Locatelli, it could be Barella, it could be a whole bunch of guys. What's your plan about Berardi? So I don't think he'll start. So I think that I hope maybe he'll come off the bench and get an attacking return. Otherwise, I'll sub Kane on for him. Damsgaard or Torres, I would go with Torres. Stones or Maguire, I favour Stones there, Michael, because Maguire's on a yellow card. If he picks up another yellow card against Ukraine, he's banned for the semis. I don't think he'll pick up a yellow card. I think if it was kind of a clean slate, I would favour Maguire because I think he's more of an attacking threat on those set pieces. But I think right now, I would just go with safety and I would just go with Stones. Wildcard attack, Zen, I would go with Morata. I would go with Kane. I'd probably go with Schick. Then I would go with a similar midfield. Instead of Berardi, I would probably go with... who can you go with instead of him? Maybe a Mason Mount. Maguire was very dangerous. So Maguire's super dangerous on the set pieces. He just sometimes doesn't connect well. I don't know what it is about him. If he if he had like good headering accuracy, he would score so many goals off set pieces. Are you sure about Morata, captain? Zaid, I am. I just think that in terms of the 3 Spanish assets, I mean, Morata I think still has a good chance. Transferring Mason Mount for the Ukraine game worth a punt. Aaron, I think that Mason Mount starts that fixture. I think that if he's back from COVID, training fine, I think that he does play. 1 minute left, says Shaggy, so that is true. Save it, guys. Please save your teams so that we don't have any tears at the end of the day, and make sure that your dates are confirmed at the bottom here. You can see that I've got my England assets on the bench because they play tomorrow. He was very aggressive and attacking last summer at the Greek Isles. Okay, yeah, that is true. He didn't have the best summer in Greece, but I think that he's recovered from that. What do you think of this lineup? Lukaku, Kane, Cole. That is quite an insane lineup if you manage to double up on Kane, but you probably missed out one of the players. It's probably going to be someone else, such as a Morata or something, so that looks fine. But that is the deadline, unfortunately, guys. So hopefully you guys did get your teams finalized and everything. Hopefully this is going to be a good game week. Hopefully the -12 doesn't come to bite us too much. But I think that we got potential to get some high scores in here. And I own a couple of options that I'm excited about. This is the first time I'm owning Mailer. So, I mean, that goal that he scored in the round of 16 is going to be quite a good one. But I'm going to be signing off. This has been Davey FPL. And as I always say, hopefully the green arrows are forever in your favor. And I'll be out. Cheers. Bye.